the grating of the window, which was cautiously opened. Rosandrée leaned over the garden and waited, with her eyes turned to the wall, as though she saw something there. Presently Rénine shook the ivy branches. "Ah!" she said. "This time I know you're there. Yes, the ivy's moving. Georges, darling, why do you keep me waiting? Catherine has gone. I am all alone." She had knelt down and was distractedly stretching out her shapely arms, covered with bangles which clashed with a metallic sound. "Georges! Georges!" Her every movement, the thrill of her voice, her whole being expressed desire and love. Hortense, deeply touched, could not help saying: "How the poor thing loves him! If she but knew!" "Ah!" cried the girl, "you've spoken! You're there! And you want me to come to you, don't you? Here I am, Georges." She climbed over the window ledge and began to run, while Rénine went round the wall and advanced to meet her. She stopped short in front of him and stood choking at the sight of this man and woman whom she did not know and who were stepping out of the very shadow from which her beloved appeared to her each night. Rénine bowed, gave his name and introduced his companion: "Madame Hortense Daniel, a pupil and friend of your mother's." Still motionless with stupefaction, her features drawn, she stammered: "You know who I am? And you were there just now? You heard what I was saying?" Rénine, without hesitating or pausing in his speech, said: "You are Rosandrée, the happy princess. We saw you on the films the other evening. And circumstances led us to set out in search of you, to Le Havre, where you were abducted on the day when you were to have left for America, and to the forest of Brotonne, where you were imprisoned." She protested eagerly, with a forced laugh: "What is all this? I have not been to Le Havre. I came straight here. Abducted? Imprisoned? What nonsense!" "Yes, imprisoned in the same cave as the happy princess. And you broke off some branches to the right of the cave." "But how absurd! Who would have abducted me? I have no enemy." "There's a man in love with you, the one whom you were expecting just now." "Yes, my lover," she said proudly. "Have I not the right to receive whom I like?" "You have the right. You are a free agent. But the man who comes to see you every evening is wanted by the police. His name is Georges d'Aubrec. He killed Bourget, the jeweler." The accusation made her start with indignation, and she exclaimed: "It's a lie! An infamous fabrication of the newspapers! Georges was in Paris on the night of the murder. He can prove it." "He stole a motor car and 40,000 francs in notes." She retorted vehemently: "The motor car was taken back by his friends, and the notes will be restored. He never touched them. My leaving for America had made him lose his head." "Very well. I am quite willing to believe everything that you say, but the police may show less faith in these statements and less indulgence." She became suddenly uneasy and faltered: "The police? There's nothing to fear from them. They won't know. Where to find him? I succeeded, at all events. He is working as a woodcutter in the forest of Brotonne." "Yes, but you... that was an accident, whereas the police—" The words left her lips with the greatest difficulty. Her voice was trembling, and suddenly she rushed at Rénine, stammering: "He is arrested? I'm sure of it, and you have come to tell me. Arrested, wounded, dead perhaps. Oh, please, please!" She had no strength left. All her pride, all the certainty of her great love gave way to an immense despair, and she sobbed out: "No, he's not dead, is he? No, I feel that he's not dead. Oh, sir, how unjust it all is! He's the gentlest man, the best that ever lived. He has changed my whole life. Everything is different since I began to love him, and I love him so. I love him. I want to go to him. Take me to him. I want them to arrest me too. I love him. I could not live without him." An impulse of sympathy made Hortense put her arms around the girl's neck and say warmly: "Yes, come. He's not dead, I'm sure, only wounded. And Prince Rénine will save him. You will, won't you, Rénine? Come, make up a story for your servant. Say that you're going somewhere by train, and that she's not to tell anybody. Be quick. Put on a wrap. We will save him. I swear we will." Rosandrea went indoors and returned almost at once, disguised beyond recognition in a long cloak and a veil that shrouded her face, and they all took the road back to Routot. At the inn, Rosandrea passed as a friend whom they had been to fetch in the neighborhood and were taking to Paris with them. Rénine ran out to make enquiries and came back to the two women. "It's all right. Daubrecq's alive. They have put him to bed in a private room at the mayor's offices. He has a broken leg and a rather high temperature, but all the same, they expect to move him to Rouen tomorrow, and they have telephoned there for a motor car." "And then?" asked Rosandrea anxiously. Rénine smiled. "Why, then we shall leave at daybreak. We shall take up our positions in a sunken road, rifle in hand, attack the motor coach and carry off Georges." "Oh, don't laugh," she said plaintively. "I'm so unhappy." But the adventure seemed to amuse Rénine, and, when he was alone with Hortense, he exclaimed: "You see what comes of preferring dishonour to death! But hang it all, who could have expected this? It isn't a bit the way in which things happen in the pictures. Once the man of the woods had carried off his victim, and considering that for 3 weeks there was no one to defend her, how could we imagine, we who had been proceeding all along under the influence of the pictures, that in the space of a few hours the victim would become a princess in love? Confound that Georges! I now understand the sly, humorous look which I surprised on his mobile features. He remembered, Georges did, and he didn't care a hang for me. Oh, he tricked me nicely. And you, my dear, he tricked you too. And it was all the influence of the film. They show us at the cinema a brute beast, a sort of long-haired, ape-faced savage. What can a man like that be in real life? A brute, inevitably, don't you agree? Well, he's nothing of the kind. He's a Don Juan, the humbug!" "You will save him, won't you?" said Hortense, in a beseeching tone. "Are you very anxious that I should?" "Very." "In that case, promise to give me your hand to kiss." "You can have both hands, Rénine, and gladly." The night was uneventful. Rénine had given orders for the two ladies to be waked at an early hour. When they came down, the motor was leaving the yard and pulling up in front of the inn. It was raining, and Adolphe, the chauffeur, had fixed up the long, low hood and packed the luggage inside. Rénine called for his bill. They all three took a cup of coffee. But, just as they were leaving the room, one of the inspector's men came rushing in. "Have you seen him?" he asked. "Isn't he here?" The inspector himself arrived at a run, greatly excited. "The prisoner escaped. He ran back through the inn. He can't be far away." A dozen rustics appeared like a whirlwind. They ransacked the lofts, the stables, the sheds. They scattered over the neighborhood. But the search led to no discovery. "Oh, hang it all!" said Rénine, who had taken his part in the hunt. "How can it have happened?" "How do I know?" spluttered the inspector in despair. "I left my 3 men watching in the next room. I found them this morning fast asleep, stupefied by some narcotic which had been mixed with their wine. And the Daubrecq bird had flown." "Which way?" "Through the window. They were evidently accomplices, with ropes and a ladder. And, as Daubrecq had a broken leg, they carried him off on the stretcher itself." "They left no traces?" "No traces of footsteps, true. The rain has messed everything up. But they went through the yard, because the stretcher's there." "You'll find him, Mr. Inspector, there's no doubt of that. In any case, you may be sure that you won't have any trouble over the affair. I shall be in Paris this evening, and shall go straight to the prefecture, where I have influential friends." Rénine went back to the two women in the coffee-room, and Hortense at once said: "It was you who carried him off, wasn't it? Please put Rosandre's mind at rest. She's so terrified." He gave Rosandre his arm and led her to the car. She was staggering and very pale. And she said, in a faint voice: "Are we going? And he? Is he safe? Won't they catch him again?" Looking deep into her eyes, he said: "Swear to me, Rosandre, that in 2 months, when he is well and when I have proved his innocence, swear that you will go away with him to America." "I swear." "And that, once there, you will marry him." "I swear."